They say the West was built on accidents. Wrong trains boarded, wrong men buried, wrong brides sent rattling down the wrong roads. I used to laugh at such talk, the way a weary man laughs at tall tales told around a whiskey fire. But I stopped laughing the winter Rebecca Harper stepped off the wagon, veil catching snowflakes like heaven itself had confused her with an angel due elsewhere. She was 24, steady in the eyes, fragile only in appearance, a bride mistakenly delivered to a place that had long since given up hope of miracles. The Boone Ranch crouched against the mountains like a tired sentinel, its log walls weather-scarred, its chimney spilling smoke that curled into the pale sky. Snow lay thick, swallowing boot prints almost as quickly as they were made. Jedediah Boone stood tall and silent near the fence, broad shoulders wrapped in a trail-worn coat, grief carved deep in the lines around his mouth. He was a man who did not waste words. He had buried his wife 3 years past, and with her went most of his softness. At his side, a little girl of 6 lingered, half hidden in the folds of her wool cloak, eyes too old for her tender years. Micah Boone. She had not laughed since the sickness took her mother, and townsfolk whispered that silence had grown around her like a shroud. Rebecca, clutching her small valise, looked at the pair as though measuring the life she'd stepped into by mistake. The letter she carried should have taken her to another man, another house, another future. But the snowstorm had stranded the wagon, and when she was finally ushered down at the Boone Ranch, there was no way back. Proper or not, she was here. Jedediah gave her a nod as one might a stray dog, acknowledgment without welcome. "You can stay the night," he said gruffly, "until we sort the matter." His words were colder than the wind. It was Micah who changed everything. While Jedediah walked toward the barn, Rebecca knelt to adjust her hem, and in that moment the child stepped close. From somewhere, perhaps pocket, perhaps the hollow of her hand, Micah offered a single red winter rose, wilting but stubbornly alive. Her voice was soft, almost secret. "God finally sent you to us." Rebecca froze, heart striking like a drum in her chest. The girl's eyes brimmed with something fragile. Hope, perhaps, or the memory of it. That sentence hung between them like prophecy. And though Rebecca knew she had no claim here, she also knew she could not walk away. Snow deepened, roads closed, and Rebecca remained at the Boone Ranch. What began as one night stretched into weeks. The town gossiped. Of course, they always did. "That's the bride who landed at the wrong door," they whispered at the mercantile. "Abandoned already." Rebecca endured the stares with a calm face, but alone she felt the sting. She was neither wife nor kin, just a woman misplaced, a misprint in someone else's story. Yet she worked. She rose before dawn to fetch water from the frozen creek, hands raw with cold. She mended clothes with thread scavenged from her own belongings. She swept the cabin floor until it gleamed like a church pew on Sunday morning. Jedediah watched in silence, offering no thanks, yet leaving small signs of notice. A log split and waiting by her door, a steaming mug of coffee set quietly on the table before she stirred. Micah, meanwhile, began to follow her like a shadow. At first, the girl only watched. But one evening, as Rebecca hummed a hymn beside the fire, Micah laid her head against Rebecca's lap and fell asleep. From then on, trust bloomed slowly, like buds pushing through frost. Rebecca taught her to braid her hair loose, gentle, unlike the tight plaits of grief she had worn. She coaxed laughter from her with small games, a ragdoll puppet, a guessing song. It startled Jedediah the first time he heard it, that laugh, bright and sudden as a bird startled into flight. He turned away quickly, as though ashamed of how it pierced him. The world beyond their homestead was not so kind. In town, whispers followed. Some men smirked, some women frowned. Rebecca carried herself with dignity, chin high, but Jedediah's silence cut deeper than any gossip. If he cared for her presence, he did not say. If he feared scandal, he did not voice it. He simply carried his grief like armor, and she, despite herself, began to long for a crack in it. Winter dragged into early thaw. The creek sang again beneath melting ice. With spring came a letter, hand-delivered by a passing rider. Rebecca opened it slowly, the paper trembling. The truth was revealed. The mistake had been found. She was meant for another man, waiting still, his claim unfulfilled. The letter urged her return. That night, Jedediah said little. He only leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, and muttered, "It's what's proper." Rebecca swallowed her reply. Micah, overhearing, crumpled in tears. She clung to Rebecca's skirts, whispering over and over, "Don't go. Please don't go." Rebecca held the child close, torn between duty and the fragile life that had taken root in her heart. It was her lowest hour, a heart misplaced, a child's hope depending on her, a man too proud to speak. The West had left her stranded, and now it seemed it would abandon her altogether. Dawn broke pale and brittle. Rebecca had packed her valise. She stepped outside into the thinning snow, breath curling white. The wagon road stretched ahead, promising a future she no longer desired. But waiting by the fence were Jedediah and Micah. The child rushed to her, small hand clutching Rebecca's fingers with desperate strength. "God sent you to us," Micah whispered again, eyes shining with tears. Jedediah stood silent, jaw tight, before finally speaking. His voice was low, roughened by years of swallowing words. "She's right, and I reckon I've been too proud to say it." Rebecca looked at him, at the man carved by grief, now standing bare in the morning light, his walls crumbling inch by inch. Slowly, she pulled the letter from her pocket, unopened still, and tore it in half. The pieces drifted down into the snow like pale petals, vanishing as they touched the ground. "I've already chosen," she said softly, "not only to him, but to the land, the girl, the life that had claimed her without asking." The air seemed to shift. Micah laughed, pure and unbroken, the sound carrying across the yard like bells. Jedediah's shoulders eased, and though he did not reach for Rebecca's hand, the space between them hummed with certainty, as if hands had been joined nonetheless. In the weeks that followed, gossip continued, but its barbs dulled. Rebecca moved through town with Micah's small hand in hers, Jedediah a steady figure at her side. No formal vows had been spoken yet, but the bond was plain as day. The West had no patience for fairy tales, yet here was one, stitched quietly from survival and small mercies. And so the mistaken bride became the chosen one. A child's silence broke into song, a man's grief softened into patience, and a woman misplaced found herself exactly where she belonged. Remember this, reader, the wrong trail can lead you home, and sometimes a heart finds its kin not by birth nor bargain, but by accident so divine it feels like fate. Every wrong turn is only another road to grace. Every stranger, perhaps, is the family you were meant to find.